Hello, and welcome to the DC Overlord channel. I'm the DC Overlord, and today we are going to be starting a series where I talk about DC Animated Universe. Specifically, we're going to go episode by episode, starting with Superman the Animated Series, not Batman, because I really want to get into like Justice League and everything. And so we're going to start with Superman to help kind of speed that up. We could go back and do Batman later. But we're really going to talk about each episode of Superman the Animated Series. But we're not going to talk about all of them. Mainly just, like, my favorites of the season. So it's not going to be all of the episodes. But it's going to be, like, the main ones. And we're going to start off with The Last Son of Krypton. So this is the first episode of Superman the Animated Series. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel also. So that you guys can follow along and chat about it and watch it along as well. All of this is available on HBO Max. You can also find it on like Amazon and stuff like that. But so today we're gonna talk about the 3-part episode, which is Superman the Animated Series, The Last Son of Krypton. The first episode, this is our first impression of Superman. Now what's interesting is that each part of the episode is split apart into different sections of Superman's life. So the first episode actually doesn't even involve Superman himself. The first part of the episode focuses on Jor-El and Lara and the life on Krypton. And it leads up to the destruction of Krypton and eventually to the arrival of Superman on Earth. So we really focus on the true origins of Krypton, which is a really great way to start off a Superman series, because you get the full treat of the origin, not 10 minutes, not 2 seconds. You get full 22 minutes of just Krypton, and you really understand the government, the planet, where it stands, and it also gives the foundation for Brainiac as a villain. It allows you to understand why Brainiac is bad, where Brainiac even came from, and kind of just evolves. And if you kind of compare it to the modern world, it's like if AI started advancing to a level of self-comprehension, this is something that it might turn into. It could be like the Terminator kind of thing. So, this is a really great way of showing the sci-fi elements of Superman. Yes, Superman is generally more of a fantasy kind of story, but it can have sci-fi elements to it. The second part focuses on Clark growing up, learning about his powers, learning about his Kryptonian heritage, the fact that he doesn't even come from Earth, that he's from another planet, and having to really struggle with that idea of him being weird, of him not really fitting in, and having his own conflict as Clark, which is trying to figure out what he wants to do, who he wants to be, and ultimately deciding to become Superman. And then, of course, the third part focuses on Superman. And his first year, like he has his first debut, he has his costume on, and he's really showing the world what Superman means. Of course, his first act as Superman is saving a plane. And this is really done really well. It shows his struggle. It shows how he adapts going forward, like where he starts versus where he ends up going. And it's a really great way of introducing Superman. And I could honestly see, like, Superman Legacy, for example, the movie about Superman, basically following the template that is this third part. Because you have Superman established, but people don't really know who Superman is. Like, Lois doesn't know. It's like Jimmy doesn't know. It's like people don't know who Superman is. But they get to know him. And that's kind of the important part. And then, in terms of the villains that we see, it's Lex Luthor, it's Metallo. Well, not even Metallo. It's actually before Metallo. The main villain is actually John Corbin. So it's actually John Corbin, and he is using basically this mechanical suit, and he's fighting Superman, not as Metallo, but as John Corbin. It's because Metallo doesn't actually happen until a few episodes later. So this is kind of a great way of showing a character how he acts before he's even the villain. And of course you have kind of Lex and Superman uncovering Lex's corruption, basically. And Superman even confronts Lex Luthor and kind of has a talk to him, because he knows that Lex is not an honorable man, and he wants to make sure Lex knows that if he does something, Superman will be there to save the day, and not only save the day, but lock him up as well. And this is a really great way. And then the final scene is just showing Brainiac drifting off in space. And it honestly would be a really good template to follow. Obviously, it would have to be a lot longer than that because it's only 22 minutes. But, I mean, you take that and you expand on it a little bit, it actually would be a pretty good origin movie. Well, not origin movie, but, like the first year one sort of thing. And, if Superman Legacy has any of these kind of aspects, kind of the character that is Superman, I think it's going to be a real treat. And it'll be really interesting to kind of see how it ends up growing, how it ends up evolving. Now, Superman the Animated Series, it debuted after Batman the Animated Series. So it happened sort of after the second season, I believe. So, the old episodes played, right? And then you had Superman the Animated Series, and then you eventually led into the new adventures of Superman and Batman, which ultimately became the third and fourth volumes of the shows. So you really saw the characters not only evolving, but eventually going on to what would eventually become the Justice League. Like, this is where it really started. And it was really the success of these shows that really turned them into these characters that we all know and love. No, it's not just the animated series, but the animated series played a big role in the popularity of these characters. A lot of people grew up watching Batman the Animated Series. And the Batman the Animated Series, its first episode didn't even really start with like a Batman origin story. We didn't actually get the Batman origin story for Batman the Animated Series until later. It actually was not the first episode. So we had On Other Wings for Batman the Animated Series. That was technically the first episode, although sometimes it's the Cat and the Claw now. It depends. It doesn't really matter. But either one doesn't start with Batman's origin. Batman just already exists. And of course, this is coming off of the Batman. So it's coming off of like Batman Returns and everything. And so it doesn't really need to set up that for the mainstream audience. But with Superman, it decided to kind of go just the origin route because, the only thing from Superman that had been existing at the time, I think, was, we had Christopher Reeve's Superman, and I think Brandon Routh's Superman came after, so, yeah, we really just had Christopher Reeve, and it had been a while, so it had been a while since people had heard Superman's origin story, and so, of course, the first episode is going to reiterate that, and I think I like the approach of the first episode, because for once, it's not just Superman's origin story, it's Krypton's, and that's going to come into a very important role later when we get to know Krypton a little bit more. And in fact, it makes Brainiac a more threatening villain because not only is he a villain to Superman, he's a villain to Krypton and the Kryptonian people. And that's really a great distinction to make, is that the Brainiac, the reason why he's such a great Superman villain is it's personal. It's personal because he's been there from the start. He's the cause of Krypton's explosion. Like he caused the extinction of the Kryptonians. And so for Cal, of course, there's going to be a personal issue, but he has to decide how he's going to handle that, how he's going to solve the problem. And it's not really an easy answer. Because yes, I mean, yeah, Brainiac is just a machine. There's no killing Brainiac because Brainiac isn't alive. But at the same time, you kind of have to have that question of, okay, well, he's not alive, but he still exists. And so, even through the episode, well, actually, we'll get there, because it's in actually a later episode of Stolen Memories. But it's like the first impression of Brainiac is not necessarily an enemy. It's just someone who knows about his people. Someone where Cal can go to and learn about his culture. So again, we're not going to do all of the episodes, but we'll kind of go down the list. Down my memory list. But I think the next episode we're actually going to talk about is probably actually Stolen Memories, because I think, all the other episodes are really great because they each play a role in setting up who Superman is. Like, Fun and Games sets up Bruno Mannheim and Toyman. Eventually that would lead into, Tools of Trade and Darkseid and everything. A Little Piece of Home introduces the concept of kryptonite into the animated series, which is a really great introduction, to be honest, because it doesn't even happen intentionally, which is really great. I mean, just accidentally stumbling upon kryptonite is kind of amazing, because it's like no one discovers that his weakness is kryptonite. It's just that, I guess they do discover. It's just after his reaction, they find out that it was because of kryptonite. Feeding Time is great because it's a great origin story for Parasite. Parasite is just vastly kind of not underused. It's just that he's not really fleshed out as a villain. It kind of makes him like a temporary villain for the most part, even though he can be a really great villain. And then the Way of Flash is the actual origin of Metallo. So the Way of Flash is where John Corbin gets turned into Metallo by Lex Luthor. And I actually think that could very well be kind of a plot point in Superman Legacy, is the plot of Luthor turning John Corbin into Metallo, Metallo then going after Superman, and kind of Lex just pulling the strings in the background. Like, he's not a main villain, but he is the cause of Metallo. So it's like, you don't have to have Luthor at the front end of the conflict. You can have him in the background, just kind of just causing mayhem. and that would eventually then lead into, of course, Stolen Memories. Okay, so this will be the end of this episode, but we're gonna continue kind of just doing this. I think I might actually make this its own sort of podcast series, so you guys can follow along. So the next episode that we're gonna really talk about is Stolen Memories, and then we're gonna do The Main Man, and then I think after that we do Tools of Trade. Tools of Trade, and so then season 2. We'll talk about Blast from the Past, Speed Demons. Honestly, we might talk about basically everything. No, I think the ones that we focus on is good. I'll actually make a list. I'll put it in the comments, and that'll be the list that we kind of go on. Because we're not going to talk about every episode. We're going to talk about a lot of the big ones, the main ones, really. But it'll be really fun to kind of just go through some of my fan favorites, some of just popular ones, and just kind of just talking about it like a nerd. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.